Say what's up, YouTube. Say what's up, YouTube. Today's assembly day, guys. We've got all the parts we were waiting on right here in front of me. And actually, wait, I'm missing, oh, my oil pump. Damn oil pump. Forgot to throw that in the cool little clip there. And I got to pull it out of the box, but whatever. Cool, oil pump there. Let's go over everything just real quick, and then we'll dive into getting this block honed out and getting this engine assembled. So here's my intake. My boy Tim with American Powder Coating out in Middleburg, Florida, took care of this for me. So if you guys are in the Middleburg, Jacksonville area, be sure to give him a holler, tell him I sent you, and he'll give you a little bit of discount. Thank you for that, Tim. I appreciate you big time, dog. Windage tray, she came through from Summit Racing. Rear main seal, she's here. Oil pump gasket, she's here. Lifter set, she's here. Obviously oil pump. Piston ring set. My boy had to work today, so I wasn't able to grab his flex hone, but thankfully Old Harbor Freight came through, so I got a flex hone with some ATF, some rags, some brake cleaner. That is about ready to go. I think I've already showed you guys the timing kit and the other parts. Here are the pistons. I went through them last night, cleaned them up, soaked them down in some brake cleaner and some parts cleaner, cleaned all the inside, used a wire wheel and a wire brush to chase out all of the rust buildup and all that good jazz that was on there. And the last piston I have to take apart is number 8. Still got its rings and stuff in there. I just decided to call it a night, and I was like, yeah, well, one more. I'll let that be. So, all right, let me shut up. Let's get to work. We are all honed out. Got some decent cross hatches in there. It's a little bit of staining from, I'm assuming, where the pistons were sitting, obviously where the moisture was, but there's no rust buildup, there's no corrosion buildup. I don't feel anything with my fingertips, especially that little guy down there. Everything's got nice cross hatches in it. And we're ready to start assembling these piston rings onto the pistons, and then once that's said and done, I will clean the cam up, get the cam installed, roll it over. We'll start with the bearings, crank bearings, get the crank in there, get the crank clamped down, and once the crank's clamped down, then we can start installing pistons and rods. Moving on to these piston rings, they're pretty straightforward. You guys can see I've already got ring number 1 all together. Hassing makes it super easy for you. They obviously label it, your third ring, your oiling ring, your second compression ring, and your first compression ring. If your compression ring doesn't have a little dot on it or anything for the top one, it can go either way. This guy will have a dot on it, and these guys are, you know, they're pretty straightforward. But if you're wondering why I'm assembling the pistons right now, or the piston rings, just because it's a little easier to get that thrown together, and then I can focus all my time and energy on the bottom end. And then once the bottom end is all together, I don't have to wait around and assemble these guys. I can just get them prepped up, slip them into the piston ring compressor, and then get them installed. So I've got my rings facing opposite directions, my gaps, lower gap here, got my oil ring gap there, and then on the far side for the top one. So I'm gonna go through, again, slap you guys on time lapse, and just get this thing done. Now that all the pistons have their rings on them, they're ready to rock and roll. We're going to get ready to install my cam. I've got the cam laid out right here. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is put some assembly lube oil all over this guy, get her ready to rock and roll. And then I'm gonna slide that guy in with the block upside down. Just makes life a little easier. You can assist it back here if you need to. I've already went ahead and put some assembly lube, as you can see, inside the cam bearings. And I've already put some assembly lube here where the main caps are gonna go. So let me go ahead and lube this guy up and we'll get her installed. This old girl nice and lubed up here. Gotta take your sweet time getting this thing installed. It could be a pain in the neck coming out. It could be a pain in the neck going in. She's in there. If you have a hard time getting it all the way in, you can put the cam gear on the front of it, and that'll help you go the rest of the way if you can't get it rotating. But as you guys saw there, it's not too bad. You take your time, it'll go right in. So we got that guy. Now it's time to go ahead and grab my main caps, get the main caps all lubed up, and get those guys dropped in. So as far as your caps go, you'll see the little oiling hole, and then you'll see all the holes inside the block. I think it's kind of common sense there, but I'll go ahead and say it, that the holes will line up inside of the block as so. Don't be scared to use that assembly lube either, because it'll appreciate it, especially when you start cranking it over by hand when you go to install the pistons. You want this sucker to be nice and oiled up. And prior to filming all of this, I obviously sprayed everything down with brake cleaner. You may have seen it at the end of the clip when I got done honing. But I went through and cleaned everything down with brake cleaner, made sure that everything was free of any buildup from when we just burred this out, any buildup from the machine shop, anything like that. I made sure that it was all cleaned off. All right, cool. Main bearings are in. Now that we've got the bearings in the block, we're gonna go ahead and install the bearings into the caps here. You can see I've got the rear one. This one also acts as the thrust bearing, if I'm not mistaken. Same process. Assembly lube.
Grab your bearing. There we go. Well, I think you guys get the point. We'll go ahead and get the rest of these guys together. Check with you in just 1 second.
All the bearings are in these guys, ready to rock and roll. We're gonna move on to getting the rear main seal installed. You can see that I've already got some oil on that guy. And if you look closely, you can see there's a big lip right here. That lip will be facing forward, so I'm gonna move you guys on over here. I apologize if you're a little bouncy. But essentially this guy's just getting slipped on. Like so. But here's the catch. You want to offset it just a little bit, so that way the sealing point on the block is not level with the sealing point or the mating point on the seal, if that makes sense to you. So you see how it's flush? This can lead to leaking. Guys will say to offset it just a little bit, and then when you put your main cap on with the other side of the rear main seal, it can flush down and seal it up without being flush with the edge of the block, if that makes sense. All right, that guy's in there, so now we're gonna go grab the crankshaft and get the crank dropped in. First, I've got to clean that guy up, so I'm gonna do that off camera, and then once it's all clean, out of the bag, ready to rock and roll, then I'll install it. There it goes. I was like, man, it's not dropping in the rear. There it goes. Rear main still looks pretty good. All right, crankshaft is in there. Assembly this guy. Obviously, you don't want to get these guys mixed up. If you know what you're doing, you already know that. You don't need me telling you that. But they're labeled. They have their numbers on them. Make sure they sit flush into the block there. And yeah, you're golden, man. You're golden. All I'm doing is just setting them down. Not torqued, not over tightening them, not going crazy with it. This thing can only, I don't know, make like 30 foot-pounds, maybe if I crank on it, but. Oh yeah, spinning like butter right there. Awesome. Cool. Now that that guy's in there and all in place, all we got to do is torque these main caps down, and then we can start moving forward with the rest of the installation here. All right, next step, guys, is torquing down the main caps. The video's getting a little lengthy, so I don't know if I'm going to wrap it up here and then do a piston install in the next video. But first, we're going to start off with 20 foot-pounds in the center, and then we're going to move up to 50 and then 75 for just the center ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then these outer ones, they'll be around 60 to 65 foot-pounds. So I've got my unit set up on 20 right here, and we'll go ahead and start torquing this down here. Alright, so I grabbed the specs off of Summit Racing, and these inner guys, they're going to go down to 70. These outer ones will go to 65. And then that last one for the oil pump will be 45, but I'll obviously do that when I get the oil pump installed. I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video currently, guys. The next video will be us slapping the bearings onto our connecting rods and then getting the pistons and the con rods dropped into the block and then getting them secured down and bolted to the crank. I wanna thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content, and I will see you guys in part 2. Later.
I'm always in the doghouse.